Welcome to another Advanced Manufacturing Media webinar. Our presentation today is which ERP software is best for your shop, on-premise, hosted, or cloud? Hello, I'm Mike Anderson, Senior Editor at Manufacturing Engineering. Before the presentation begins, I'd like to provide some background on what we will be doing today. Our sponsor today is JobBOSS. JobBOSS provides enterprise resource planning software for custom made-to-order and mixed-mode manufacturers. The company has been selling to small and medium-sized manufacturers that understand the chaos and constant interruptions of running a job-based manufacturing company. JobBOSS helps manufacturers get control of the chaos and understand actual costs of jobs, machines, and employees. Our presenter is Peter Adam, National Director of Sales at JobBOSS. Peter has been in sales and sales management for more than 20 years and is responsible for ensuring manufacturers make the right ERP selection for their specific needs. During the presentation, you will be able to ask questions using the Q&A box that appears at the right of your screen. Time permitting, your questions will be answered following the presentation. If time runs out before we can get to all the questions, we will make sure the answers are emailed to you. Another housekeeping point. When viewing webinars over the Internet, it's possible for the quality of the presentation to be affected by the type of Internet connection you have, the amount of total bandwidth available to you, and the number of people accessing that bandwidth at the time. If you experience difficulty, please let us know by way of that Q&A box. If you have questions about any other aspects of our webinars, please email me at manderson, M-A-N-D-E-R-S-O-N, @sme.org. I'll rejoin you after the presentation with a few concluding remarks. Now here's Peter Adam of JobBOSS. Peter.
Thank you, Mike. So I appreciate everyone joining us today. As Mike mentioned, I am the National Director of Sales. So we work with the United States and Canada. But I wanted to get it out right on the front end that this is not a product demo. It's not a sales pitch. Our intent today is really to be informational and more around the idea of thought leadership. I'd like to talk about a couple of different topics, which is really discussing software platforms and deployment methods. And that's really the hosted, cloud, or on-premise solution, which are best for you. And then also wanted to talk about some financing options and how software companies work in today's environment. And there might be some interesting information around that as well. So before I jump into, I wanted to give just some background about ERP and why companies invest in ERP. ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. And this is some information that has been delivered from the Aberdeen Group. They went out and interviewed a large number of manufacturers, and there are a number of reasons why manufacturing organizations invest in ERP software. Many of them are out there trying to reduce costs. They're also trying to grow their business and manage expectations, and then really dealing with customers and the response time, shipping, delivery, and then having accurate information to be able to make good decisions. This is really from the Aberdeen Group. From our perspective, we've been in business for 30-plus years. We had our 30th anniversary last year, and these are some of the major reasons why organizations invest in ERP with us. They're usually trying to manage their quoting and a history and understanding the costing around that. Many of our customers don't know if they're winning or losing money on a job until they bring in the ERP software. Visibility and control is a big deal in terms of really managing the business. So being able to report on jobs, equipment, employees, and really looking at utilization and being able to do that at the click of a button. Scheduling and shipping is a huge thing for our customers. And then tracking, reporting that, and being able to give the information like the Aberdeen Group mentioned, and ultimately having a flexible tool that is able to manage the chaos of a job shop and being able to enter things and jobs on the fly. So with that, I wanted to turn it over to really more of the technology platforms and the deployment methods. there's a lot of information going on around the cloud hosting and what is the right solution for software companies. So before I jump in, I wanted to give some definitions. There are really three types of deployment methods. There is on-premise or client server. This is traditionally how most software has been deployed. It's at a customer's location. They purchase a server, and then they either have their in-house IT work on the software deployment, or they have a third-party vendor come in and do that, whether it's contracted or through other services. Hosting or a managed, third-party managed service is becoming more popular. This is often referred to as private cloud. So instead of deploying software at a customer's location, they would get a third-party hosting company and deploy it on basically a server farm. And then cloud or Saas is really internet-based computing, which is really networked and typically hosted by a software vendor or some sort of supplier. Online banking is a good way of thinking about cloud software. That's something that I think most people can relate to. So wanted to jump into what the cloud model is like. So in general, this is the Saas, software as a service, or public cloud. It's gaining a lot of notoriety. There's a lot of information, and there's definitely a lot of folks that are out promoting it. This is really where a third-party company hosts a server or a list of server farms, and it's deployed via the internet, and it's typically the software vendor or some sort of vendor that's doing that in terms of software, or some large organization, again, like a Wells Fargo, may have their own server farms. So in general, I like to use an analogy. So what we're really talking about is where are you going to store your data? And looking at the different types of options, cloud or SaaS, is much like an apartment building. So what you're really doing is you're renting space. It's a low predictable monthly payment, minimal IT infrastructure or servers involved. That's all taken care of by the hosting company or the software company. And it provides anytime, anywhere, any device access. So as long as you have the internet, you can get in and you can get access to your data. So it's offloading all of the IT hardware, servers, all of the support of that off to the software organization. The downside is, much like an apartment building, you get what you get, and there's very little control over who moves in or what you do with your unit. There's minimal customization, if any. However, there are typically apps that you can get some access to. Often those apps are extra money, whether they're on a monthly basis. They may have some front-end, upfront fees and services. But in general, there's less functionality because the cloud has tended to be a newer kind of offering in the software world. And ultimately, the data is yours. So if you choose to move out, you have access to the data, but it's really about how you're storing it. And the whole idea is that you're storing your data in a space, and yet you don't have to worry about all the infrastructure. That's all taken care of by the software provider. One of the big questions is, how secure is the cloud? And 6 out of the last 10 security breaches were on-premise. And I think there are a lot of reasons for that. From an on-premise standpoint, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, a lot of money to maintain servers and firewalls and staying on top of these things. And most organizations, at least in our space and our end of the pool, don't have the time, the expertise, or the money to really develop and maintain a strong, secure, redundant type of environment. So in general, the cloud tends to be very, very secure. And I talk about online banking. Most people are familiar with online banking, and they're using it to manage their own personal finances. Hosting is another option that is becoming more and more popular, and we're hearing more about it in the marketplace. Hosting is really, instead of having the software organization, it's about going out and finding a vendor that has a server farm and that organization, whether it be a third party or some sort of IT relationship, they would set up all of the servers, they would set up all the hosting, they would do all the redundancy, the backup, everything that's involved with managing that. And this is often referred to as the private cloud. So it's an organization going out and finding that hosting model on their own. So it's really about developing your own private area of hosting or storing your data, really. And in the hosted environment, I like to refer to this much like a condo. So a condo is a good blend of both apartment building and maybe your own single home family, and it allows a lot more control. There is definitely some deeper, richer product capabilities. You can provide additional customization. There, you can schedule. You have more control of updates and upgrades, and when you do those. So when you may want to do it at times that are not during business hours. So maybe at 2 o'clock in the morning, so it's not disruptive to your business. You have control. You can schedule those things, and this is really a third-party managed service. So in general, you do have one throat to choke. So if something goes down, you can call the hosting company, and most of the hosting companies out there provide certain levels of service. Ours currently provides a 98.9% uptime, which means they have good reliability, they have backups, they have security, they have redundancy. So if something does go down, they're in a situation where they can make it happen and get it back up to speed very quickly. And they have the backups, so if something does go down, we can go back in time and capture the data and without losing much in that process, if anything. So we see a lot of our customers that are looking at hosting as either maybe a stepping stone of getting fully into the cloud, or as they upgrade and update servers, and they're looking at, should I go out and buy a whole new level of servers, and do I really want to be in that business? Do I want to have somebody on staff that manages that, or do I really want to turn that over to someone else to really take over, and I want to focus on my own business? Since it is a third-party managed service, it can be a more expensive option, but again, in terms of providing some predictable monthly payments, and it can be a good stepping stone away from either a client server or into a public cloud deployment. On-premise or client server is actually the traditional way most software has been deployed. It is a customer or a manufacturer goes out, buys a server, they're running their email, they're running their CAD, they're running their ERP manufacturing software on it. They have to then serve out that data to the right computers and workstations and those kinds of things. And in general, this is considered the network. So typically, this is the most deployed type of implementation with software, and I like to refer to it as kind of the single-family home version. So there are a lot of single-family homes out there. It's the most widely deployed. It's a very traditional type of software deployment. It's very deep and rich in terms of functionality. Our product has been around for 30 years. We've been adding to that functionality every year, and we continue to do so. So it's a very deep, rich product. There are lots of customization capabilities. So you can add on different capabilities that may not be part of the core package, and we can do that very quickly, very easily. So it does give you a lot of flexibility. The downside of client server is if something happens, you are totally responsible, and crashes tend to happen. It's just a reality of software. And when a crash does happen, you're totally responsible. So you either fix it, meaning you talk to your internal IT person, or you go out and find a contractor, or you call your third-party supplier that handles your IT, your network, and they come in and fix it, whether you're contracted or they do it on an hourly rate. You're totally responsible for those crashes. There can be some higher upfront costs with that. and there's ongoing maintenance and support with some of the upgrades. With the cloud and with hosting, there may not be the ongoing maintenance and support depending upon how you write that contract. So there's some benefits, pros and cons to each way of really deploying software. At the end of the day, I look at it really depends upon what vehicle you're looking to use to get you to what you're trying to accomplish. There are lots of different types of vehicles. There's cars, trucks, large trucks, diesel, gas, and it really is about what are you trying to accomplish, where do you want to spend your money, what do you want to focus on. And I looked at my last car that I went and purchased. I actually went and looked at an electrical car. At the end of the day, I chose to buy a traditional gas-driven vehicle, and I did that for a couple of reasons, but there's no doubt in my mind at some point in my lifetime that I'll probably be driving an electrical car. So it really is, what is the vehicle I want to get me to the right place at the right time, and what are the costs associated with that? So with that, I wanted to talk about a couple of different financing options that are available and that we're seeing and talking with our customers about. So in general, talking about a couple of just different accounting type of terms, there is Capex and Opex. So Capex is really depreciating the asset over a period of time. There are definitely some tax benefits in looking at Capex and how you handle that from an accounting standpoint. Your CPA can help you through that process. Opex is really more about what is my monthly budget, how much do I dedicate to that. It's more like the cable bill. Do I spend $200 or $400 on this, but I've got it scheduled, I have it predictably planned for in my budget, and it is really about what's the best use of looking at my money. So with our perpetual or client server options, there are a number of different types of ways to pay for software. Generally, this is the most typically the way people purchase software is there is 20% down or some sort of initial payment, and then we finance it over a period of time. So 30, 60, 90 type of financing option. And this is pretty traditional or typical of most software organizations. That does include typically an 18 to 22% maintenance, depending upon the organization. The accounting on this is that it is a CapEx expense, so you can roll it in or treat it very similar to you do equipment. So the pros are it's very traditional. There's some tax benefits to it. Cons are, you may require some upfront down payment and may require some financing if you don't have the cash all on hand. So we see a lot of organizations turn to leasing, and in particular in manufacturing. Most organizations lease their material or their machinery. It's a very large upfront investment. So we see companies that like to buy machines, and then often they'll roll in the software in the lease, and or it's another way of really lumping out and developing a predictable cash flow in the process. And some of the things about leasing is just looking at the contract or the term of the contract. In general, we're seeing anywhere from 1 to 3 years. Most of our leases that we've entered into are a dollar buyout at the end. So the company does own the software at the end of it, but that's not a given. It really depends upon how the contract is written. If you cancel the lease or if you cancel in that process, you may lose the software, or you could be on the hook for payments even if you don't use it. And there could be big penalties for canceling. Typically, maintenance is included in those monthly payments, so there's no additional cost. It's wrapped in. So if you have a 3-year or 5-year type of lease, they would roll in that maintenance as part of the lease. And you could purchase it out or convert it. So early, if you wanted to buy it out and own it up front, or say you come into a large order and you want to really take that cash and buy out the lease, you can certainly do that. In general, from an accounting standpoint, most of this is OPEX in terms of how it's handled. That can be considered a CapEx if it's purchased. So Pros and cons. Pro of the leasing is that it's typically you own the software and you're really spreading out the payments. The downside is the financing charges on these can be healthy. In general, most of the financing fees I see are in the 18% range, give or take. So there are definitely, it's beneficial to organizations to be able to spread out their payments, but I think it can be an expensive way to purchase. So one of the things that we're seeing in the marketplace today is really subscription. So we can deploy this through really whether it's client server, cloud, or hosted. We can chunk down the monthly payment. Benefit of subscription is it's a monthly fee. So much like a magazine subscription or your cable bill, it's a monthly fee, and it's predictable. It's part of you can plan for it as part of your budget. And they're typically in 1 to 3 year type of time frames. If you do cancel the software or cancel the subscription, you would lose access to the software, but there's no annual maintenance. It's all included. It's rolled into it. And some providers out there offer opportunities to convert. So if you say you're paying for the software for 2 years and say, all right, I want to convert over so I don't have this ongoing monthly payment, you can certainly convert to that. From an accounting standpoint, it's really about looking at OpEx and some of the pros and cons. Big pros are spreading it out, very low finance charges, if any. Our organization does not charge any finance fee as part of the subscription, so check into that with different suppliers. No maintenance, all of the maintenance is included, and it's basically a predictable monthly payment. The downside is you do not own the software, so it is a ongoing monthly charge that really has no end in life unless you convert over to buy out that subscription. And then there are certainly monthly payments or rental. This is most often looked at from the cloud or the public cloud. Again, looking at what type of company it is and how they're deploying it. Salesforce.com is a really good example of this. Very well known for deploying their CRM or customer relationship management software out in the cloud. Some big benefits in terms of low cost, low monthly payments, no annual maintenance. It's all included as part of that monthly fee. The accounting classification is more of the OpEx. There's really no technology infrastructure, so it's all considered OpEx. And the pros and cons on this are that, again, a very low predictable monthly payment with low IT costs. So that's all really on the shoulders of the software company or the software supplier. You can scale up and scale down very easily. So you can add suppliers, or add users, you can subtract users. We've heard of our customers during the tax time actually calling up and adding a license or a seat for the CPA to be able to go out and go in and get access and look at financials and some of the accounting side of things. Downside is you don't own the software, so it's an ongoing monthly payment, much like your cable bill. You stop paying your cable bill, you're going to stop getting access to the software. But most of our companies and our customers that have seen our software, once they get rolling with it, they fall in love with it so much that they continue on, and it's really a business mission-critical type of software. So I wanted to just give a 2-minute commercial. So it's tough to turn off a sales guy totally, but I wanted to give just a quick highlight of who we are and what we do and some of our key strengths. So with Exact JobBOSS, we've been in business for over 30 years. We really focus on the custom made-to-order job shop and mixed-mode manufacturers. So our big benefit is we have multiple products, multiple platforms, multiple pricing options. We have on-premise, hosted, cloud. We have all of the financing options that I mentioned in the presentation, and that really puts us in a position that we're able to truly consult. So I'm not biased in terms of which product or which model that I think we are trying to push for the month. It's really about what is the right solution for our customer and helping guide and coach them through that process. We started our business in custom made-to-order manufacturing, and we've stayed true to our roots throughout that process. So one of the big things we see, our job shops are really handling changes on the fly. They're dealing with chaos. They're getting interrupted constantly, and being able to have a software program that manages and responds to their day that way is something that our software has been architected around. And so with that, we really are able to scale up and scale down so our customers don't outgrow us. We still have the first customer that we sold at JobBOSS 31 years later. And it's very, very easy to use. So easy quoting, easy scheduling, easy in and out. I've heard of a number of scenarios where customers, if they lose a job or lose a quote, first thing they do is go back to the history. They dig up why they lost it. They look at their margins. They look how it compared to the last time. So having that history is a really strong part of our software. And this is where we really differentiate from some of our competitors in the marketplace. In this end of the pool, we provide full training, full-blown consulting services, and full support. And we really believe in the fact that training and consulting are important in making sure that customers get a full-blown and true implementation of the software. What we see is helping our customers through that process. We actually support and supply an implementation guidance rep, which is really like a mini project manager to keep our customers on track in the implementation process at no additional charge. So we really believe in helping our customers not worrying about shelfware. It's one of the dirty little secrets of ERP. Many of the software implementations don't get implemented, or they don't get implemented to the full standpoint. We really push training and consulting and support to ensure that our customers get a true and thorough ROI throughout the process. And ultimately, as I mentioned, we've stayed true to our roots. We've been in the job shop, small to medium, made-to-order, mixed mode manufacturing for 30-plus years. It's what we do, it's what we've been doing, and it's what we continue to do. So with that, I appreciate everyone joining us, and I will turn it back over to Mike.
Okay, hi, this is Mike Anderson joining you again. Thank you, Peter, for that very informative session. We have received some questions, and it would be nice to get to all of them before our time is up. Do remember, though, that if we run out of time before answering every question, those unanswered questions will be forwarded to Peter and Exact JobBOSS, and a response will be forthcoming. So, Peter, let's start with this question. What about security of the cloud? How secure is it?
It's a really good question. So this is probably one of the biggest things, or biggest questions I get around cloud. Actually, right now, most security breaches I mentioned are on client-server. That's because there's probably more client-server implementations out there than any other reason. And most of our companies, they're really, quite frankly, not high-value targets or real true security threats, but crashes are a reality. But I really go, however, when I talk to customers and I talk to prospects, I say, how are you doing your banking? And 9 out of the 10 people that I talk to are banking online, which is generally cloud-based computing. So this is your own personal money, you're putting it out on the internet, and the question is, how secure is it? Well, they have typically banks and large cloud companies have the wherewithal, and they're basically spreading out the cost of security, redundancy, protection, backups, and they're really providing a very, very reliable implementation.
Okay, here's another one. This is a great one. Honestly, the questioner asks, why would any new customer choose anything else than a cloud/SaaS deployment today? And then there's followed by 3 question marks. So that's a good question.
It's a great question. we are seeing more and more interest from our customers and our prospects in looking at the cloud. I think the main reason that people don't go to the cloud are really twofold. Number one, it's a newer way of doing business from a software standpoint. Client server is the traditional way software is deployed, and many people are uncomfortable stepping out of bounds. But if you look at transportation, right? At one point, most people were moving around in trains. Not really moving around in trains today. There's a lot of different other options, and as we get further and further into looking at deployments, I think that there'll be a lot more cloud interest. Second reason is there can be some limitations in terms of functionality and capabilities from a cloud deployment, because in general, what we're seeing is you're comparing very mature client-server products to more recently developed software products. So they're very, very capable, but they may not have the deep and rich capabilities that the other types of software have.
Okay. Related to that, I suppose, this question is, what type of deployment do most companies start with, hosted cloud or client server?
Yep, it really depends. It depends upon their needs and what they're looking to do. As I mentioned, some of the pros and cons of the different type of implementations. Today, still our largest percentage of companies are still opting for client server, but we're getting more and more interest in the cloud. And I think the big reason is low predictable monthly payments, whether it's public cloud or private cloud hosting. Low predictable monthly payments. They can get anytime, anywhere, any device access, which is a huge benefit to the public cloud, and then not having to worry about the overhead or the resources needed to manage their servers or their networks and keep those networks up, running, and manageable.
Okay, and we have one more question so far. So if those of you who have any more questions to ask, you might want to get them in there pretty quickly. But here's one that asks, what sized organizations does your company work with?
It's a great question. We typically service and support organizations, so again, small to medium-sized manufacturers that are in the 1 to 250 employee range. And we focus primarily on custom made to order or mixed mode manufacturing.
Okay, and another one did come in right now. And the question is, how many active customers are served by Exact JobBOSS? I don't know if you have an actual concrete number with you, but that's what the question was. How many customers?
Yep. We currently have approximately 7,000 customers that we do business with across the world, but our largest implementations are in the United States and Canada.
Okay. Oh, they're starting to come in now. This is great. Here's another one. If the cloud is used, who actually owns the data that is entered and contained within the software? What happens to data ownership if I choose to terminate the service? How do I get the records and data for future needs? That's a long question, but I'm sure it's one you've heard before. Yep.
Really good question. So you own the data, or whoever, the customer owns the data. So there you have access to that data. Typically how people get access or get the data is most software providers provide an export. We're using like an Excel type of export, Microsoft Excel. So in general, and if not, most organizations will help you get the data out. It's not that we're trying to hold people hostage. It's really about helping them, get access to their data. Okay, and here's another one. How long does a medium-size implementation take? Well, it depends. I mean, this is ERP software, so it touches all aspects of your business, from quoting to purchasing to inventory to shipping to billing and accounting. And that's true of whether it's cloud or on client server. In general, our cloud implementations are fairly quick. We look at those as 90 days or less. Our client server implementations tend to take longer, and most of that is around our clients, anywhere from 90 to 180 days. But in general, 6 months or less to implement the solution, and that we can do it much more quickly. The biggest limitation we have is really on access to our clients or getting a dedicated resource to really implement it or dedicate the time.
Okay. Let's see. Here's another one. Does JobBOSS offer integrated shipping and integrated payment processing?
It does. Going any deeper than that, I would recommend we take that one offline and we can go into more of the specifics around what exactly and how exactly we do that. But the answer is yes.
Okay. Here's another one. Is it possible to do a query of machine setup time average per customer? A query of machine setup time average per customer.
Yeah, we're starting to get into the product questions, and what I would say is yes, we can. There are different capabilities depending upon the different types of software, and again, we would be willing to set up dedicated demos or drilling into your specific questions around deep, rich product questions.
Okay. This one seems to be a little bit more general. And the question is, what level of customization is allowed for the reports generated? I.e., how far can you drill down and associate data with customers, etc.?
Yep. So I'll answer that in two parts. From a cloud deployment, we have many options. We have a lot of canned reports. In our client server option, we can go very, very deep and rich, and we can customize those. Basically, if we can capture the data, we can report on it. And in general, we have over 300 canned reports that we can deploy.
Okay. Let's see. Here's one. Is the accounting solution an integrated part of the JobBOSS solution? The website indicates it can, quote, integrate to accounting or QuickBooks, unquote. So is the solution part of the JobBOSS solution?
Yes. So we have accounting options, and this is true of our cloud or our client server option. We do integrate with accounting. In general, it is not included as part of the package, but we integrate with QuickBooks. For our cloud option, we have two variations. So we can integrate with QuickBooks Online, and we see a lot of our smaller manufacturers that use QuickBooks Online, so we're able to integrate with that quickly and easily. The other one is we do have a more thorough EOL accounting package that takes QuickBooks to the next level. One of the limitations around QuickBooks is you can't drill into the data. Our EOL accounting does allow that. And then on our client server side, we do integrate with all versions of QuickBooks, whether it's online or on-premise. And then again, we do have our own integrated accounting, which again allows us to go deeper, richer, tighter integration. And we have drill down capabilities into the manufacturing capabilities.
Great. Here's another one. And I'm telling you, they're flying in, so we'll see how many we can get to in our time that's left. And here's one more, and it says, can JobBOSS handle more than one company under one platform, whether that is on-premise, hosted, or cloud?
Yes, we can. And there are, depending upon how you do that and where you're located, we may need to dig into that. But in general, we can handle multiple locations, and we have a lot of different options, whether it's on-premise, hosted, or cloud.
Okay, another easy one. Can you implement on the cloud without the accounting function?
You can. And we're seeing more and more organizations do that. where either they have another accounting package that they're running and they don't want to change. So you could run your accounting separately and use the cloud software to manage all of your quoting, your purchasing, inventory, and manufacturing data. So it is not a requirement that you have to run them integrated. There's certainly some benefits to integrating your accounting with your manufacturing, but it is not an out-and-out requirement.
Okay, let's see. Here's this one's interesting because it has acronyms, and we all love those. What about platform from an integration standpoint, i.e. to CRM, CES, PLM, etc.? Platform from an integration standpoint.
Yep. So I would separate cloud and on-premise. On-premise we can integrate and connect to multiple platforms. We've done it in multiple implementations. On the cloud side, one of the downsides is that there's less customization and there's less capabilities to do that. So cloud is more around you get what you get, and it's really around can I manage to those capabilities. With the client server or the on-premise, there's a lot more options to add on and or integrate with other software platforms.
Okay. Here's one. Can you use QuickBooks integration with JobBOSS data from the cloud if QuickBooks is not hosted on the cloud?
We cannot at this point. So our two accounting options are really around QuickBooks Online and really around our EOL accounting. So there are some options and ways of managing that. And then we could export data and import it into a new implementation. So we have some capabilities around helping customers navigate some of those hurdles.
Okay. Here's one. What is the difference between Exact JobBOSS versus Exact Macola solution?
Yep. Really good question. So Exact JobBOSS is the company that we represent. We're focused on the small to medium-sized manufacturers and really focused on custom, made-to-order, and mixed mode. Exact Macola is focused on customers that are in the 500-plus range, and they typically tend to work with more made-to-stock. So they're repeat orders, more like a cell phone case. You might make 1,000 of those, where our customers are really focused on, they might do 10 parts and never do another order from a customer again. So really focused on different ends of the market.
I see. Okay. Well, here, I have a couple. I'm going to run them together. One person asks, can I force rank my customers by inventory turns? And also, can I force rank my customers by setup time per job? Two good questions.
Yep. I would suggest we take that offline. We're getting pretty deep in terms of some of the specifics of the product, and I would like to schedule a time, with one of my solution engineers to really address some of those items.
Okay, that's fair. Do you offer a product that supports ISO 9001 and ISO 14001 management?
Yes, we do. We have a very, very deep, rich quality solution that we support and supply out to the marketplace. These are certifications that we see frequently with our customers, and we have capabilities to handle quality certifications throughout the process.
Okay, and here's a fair question. We talked a lot about medium-sized companies, and so the question is, what do you consider a medium-sized company?
That's a good question. There's no real hard and fast rules around what a medium-sized company is, but in general, what we experience is we're dealing with companies that are 250 employees or less. Once they get larger than that, they tend to move into a more made-to-stock or a larger percentage of made-to-order type of manufacturing. And we run into different capabilities or different needs, and we're really focused on that custom end of the marketplace.
I don't know how well your voice is holding up there, but we have one last question for you, and that is, can you implement the accounting module before implementing the manufacturing modules?
You can, and we've certainly had customers do that. I'm not sure why you would want to do that, but we have flexibility around how we do implementations. In general, what we see with our customers and our manufacturers is starting from the beginning and working through the process and helping through that implementation. If there are needs or reasons, we have flexibility around how we help customers get up and running. So we're not a one-size-fits-all. We are really there to help our customers identify the best way to get implemented.
Okay, and unfortunately, our time is almost up. There were a couple of questions left, but as promised, all unanswered questions will be passed along to Exact JobBOSS, and you can expect a reply via email. Also, this entire webinar will be available for replay by 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and you can access it by using the same sign-in link you used earlier. Beyond our webinar series, SME and Advanced Manufacturing Media have a host of ways to keep in touch with the latest developments in manufacturing. For instance, the June issue of Manufacturing Engineering has a software feature article on visualizing the factory floor with high-fidelity simulation. You can find that feature plus our monthly software update columns and all of the latest software and controls news on the Software and Controls channel of our website at www.advancedmanufacturing.org. In addition, upcoming SME events allow you to look at and learn about the latest in manufacturing techniques and technologies. These events include WestTech in Los Angeles from September 15th through the 17th and the Canadian Manufacturing and Technology Show, CMTS. That's Canada's largest display of manufacturing equipment and technology. It's being held in Mississauga, haven't been there, in Ontario on September 28th through October 1st. And that'll do it for us today. Thank you for joining us. We hope you found the presentation informative.